Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. I very much welcome this debate, and I'm very pleased to support the motion that is brought forward by Liam MacArthur, and I very much welcome his comments. Very clear analysis of the situation, supported by what Alistair Allen has said, and drawing out the very special features of island life. I lived in Orkney for a couple of years back in the 70s. Probably before Liam was born, actually. I'm feeling so old these days. But, and that was unduly complimentary, I should say, Presiding Officer. I withdraw that remark immediately. Nonetheless, I lived in Orkney for a couple of years, and when you live on an island, you do begin to recognise that air travel is much more frequent than in any other community in our society. And that's more of a necessity than it ever is a choice, for a whole variety of reasons of the sort that Liam touched on. Indeed, one of the factors at work here is that there are few other choices for transport from the islands other than ferries, which take a long time and then involve other journeys at the end of that. And they're also lifeline services at very high cost to island residents. And I was going to quote the figure that Liam has already quoted, so I won't. But these are very high costs to individuals. And often individuals are not returning to the island because of the journeys they are making, even on business or for hospital visits, for more than 24 hours. And therefore, by definition, your charges would be greater than might be the case if you were a mainland dweller. Those were some of the reasons that the previous administration brought in the air discount scheme in recognition of the high cost for people living on the islands. And that's brought huge advantages. And any charging regime on the islands within car parks begins to erode the value, albeit in a small way, of that discount scheme. But of course, once you've got charges established in principle, there's no reason to say that in future years they won't rise very substantially, further under-eroding that basic policy. Now, it's clear that Hyle have wanted to do this for a very long time, and there were previous proposals which Tavish Scott stopped at the time, as I understand it. I think he was right to do that, and I regret that the Minister, I think, was wrong to have permitted charges on this occasion. But perhaps following the example of earlier today, he can show some contrition and demonstrate that he is also able to say sorry, and we can all move forward together from that. And I think Liam is right to say that Hyle have acted in a high-handed way in this, and I regret that that's the case, and I hope they've learned some lessons from that as well. As I said, these are lifeline services, and one of the interesting things of the position that's emerging is there's actually a contradiction in government policy. As people have indicated, many people use air services from the islands to visit relatives in hospital in Aberdeen or in Inverness at Raigmore from the Western Isles. For those who live in the mainland, you can drive to the hospital and you can leave your car at the hospital car park now, because of SNP policy, free of charge. And the government laud that policy. But if you're visiting hospitals from the islands, you're actually paying hospital car parking charges. The only difference is you're paying them to Hyle and you're paying them in Kirkwall and potentially in Sombra and also in Stornoway. And that just can't be right. Now, it would be daft, administratively, to create a system to refund those particular individuals, as I think you would have to have a consistent policy from the government. So it's better just to do away with all of this now and not let it move further forward. People who visit hospital, who do other business from the islands, are paying very substantial charges already. They pay an expensive flight. They pay those parking charges that they would be paying now if this was allowed to proceed. They probably pay a hotel overnight if they're visiting a relative in Aberdeen or Inverness. So to add to that cost, I think it's simply wrong. A very small amount of revenue is raised relative to the challenge that Hyle has, and that comes from islanders' pockets. And I think that would be a shame if that were to happen. And I urge Hyle not to proceed with the strong encouragement of the Minister behind that.